Here she comes.
They've arrived. So they.
Hey, you're in the movies.
She knew.
Took you a few years to get in the movies, but you're in the movies now.
Yes. My glasses are off. I had two gripping white eyes.
It's funny when
Where
you look
the
back what you
light
think you look like and you don't.
Where the night picked up my glasses.
Wave, wave.
Hello, Krista, darling. Do you have sound with your camcorder? Are you recording the sound?
Yep.
Oh, well, how are you doing, Krista?
Fine. How are you? How are you, Grandma?
She's a little silly.
She's probably been drinking. So.
Yeah.
Me laugh.
I'm a little overcome with being a star.
She's not used to being on
Amari,
camera.
don't disappear on
Krista.
us now. Go
Well, I'm
far.
just gonna go to the vineyard.
Okay.
Did you like that?
Say hi, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Okay, now that's enough. Wait for Karen to come over and get Karen.
Karen, to get.
Greg, can you erase those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, can you? And reuse them?
They're not permanent until you
Say
record them
goodbye.
on your VCR.
Goodbye, Krista.
Well, you can just keep them out.
Well, anyway, Peggy, who told Nancy's friend who told her about it, said that she uses it. Nancy said, "Well, I'm going to do my
Yeah.
own." That's it. Well,
Yeah,
she
because
said,
it
"I'm
is
not
impossible,
going to
though."
bother with this. I'll take my grade."
Yeah.
So it was a one-time.
You'd have to kill the whole class.
Well, I think she may have gotten hold of the wrong kind of thing.
Yeah.
The only thing is you do have to be careful. Once you start, you're going to have rips. And I hate
Oh, I
them,
did a
so
little bit.
Is there anyone over there?
So now I'm under Social Security, which is a joke,
The only thing is if you get in the pool over your head.
because it won't be around when I need it.
It may not. Who knows?
No? Well, do you think you guys want to go swimming before we go over to Karen's or after? Before.
Why don't we're going to go over to her house?
Yeah, she's got the new house. She has
How are we going to get there?
But I'm going to drive you over there.
Oh,
Our instructions are to get a couple carrots off of you.
oh,
For
carrots.
the horse. That would feed the horse a couple carrots. And
I'm
is she
gonna
going to
ride.
have the horse at her house when she moves
They
in?
want you to see the
Uh,
horse
not-
in the new house.
Well, not
And
immediately.
the truck,
but
you've
eventually.
got to see
It's not
that
there
truck.
now, but
Because she said about 3 blocks.
yeah. I
That's
can
her
walk over to
latest
the barn,
acquisition.
Or I can drive you over to
Mm.
two stables or horses.
She had a
So
horse
I didn't she didn't
trailer,
cost back in 15 or 20.
but she
Oh, and
sold
was
it.
the game plan?
She found that
Well,
Because
let's
I
go
asked
swimming
her
now,
what was
Krista.
in it.
she needed
If you guys want
the
to
truck
swim,
more important
right now you may only
to
get
have
20 minutes.
to pull the trailer.
Well, when else?
And the
we
trailer
go?
wasn't big enough.
Well, I
Her
don't know what
horse is
time it
bigger
is today.
than,
What time is it? I can't tell when you watch
she
that. 4
used
o'clock?
it to take it to Reading and
No,
places,
it's,
but
Oh, good. My
she wants a
eyes
bigger
watch is on.
horse trailer.
We're gonna have to switch this. Why don't you gave me your watch wrong, huh?
Yep.
Mary, what time does my watch say?
Your watch says 3:40.
Okay, I'll leave it on there.
Yep.
Okay, that helps. Now I don't feel so bad.
Okay, watch.
Do you have to wind up this watch?
Yep.
Oh,
It
okay.
doesn't take batteries, but you have to wind it.
I have one of these in ages. Okay. Leave it.
Hmm.
So you guys decide what you want to do.
This one? You set it?
Krista, what are you doing?
Yeah, I just set it prior.
Playing golf?
Well, if I go over the pool, I just want to lay out.
Well, I don't care if you go swimming.
Did people chew gum back when you were a kid, Gigi? Did people chew gum like that when you were a kid?
No, in fact, grown-ups didn't chew gum. If you did it at home. Today, they chew it on television, they chew it in businesses, they chew it wherever they feel like. No, they do a lot of things today. It always amazes me to see a man wear a hat or a cap in a restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And the
They don't
young
take them off.
fellows do it, and the old, not the old people.
Oh, my dad still takes his hat off. When he walks in the door, hat goes off. It's just habit. But
Who?
a lot of my dad,
Doesn't,
he does. When
yeah,
he walks in the door, the hat comes off.
yeah. It was,
But the young guys, they wear their baseball caps everywhere.
even the school kids,
Part of their
I've seen
anatomy.
pictures of the schoolrooms with the kids.
And they've got them on backwards a lot now too, and off
Yeah.
the side, looking kind of funky.
Yeah,
Whipping.
I don't know, but those kind of things I thought were nice. I thought they were
Just
the nice
manners.
things of of training. And I kind of feel that there isn't any of that anymore. It's only really the old people that'll open the door for you, or not that I ever was used to that, even though I was at the age, but some way or other, your husbands never were the ones, and I didn't have enough boyfriends to get spoiled.
No door opening for you, huh?
But I do think there were some nice things done in my era that are no more.
Well, I don't think they had gum available like they do now, do they? I mean, I don't
Well,
think they had gum every store.
We had gum, but I tell you, we kids, being farm kids, didn't know much about gum. But I can remember going up on the roof, our flat roof that was tarred on the shed, and we digging out that tar,
That
which
shiny
the
stuff.
sun had boiled out,
Yeah.
and
We used to do that.
chewing it.
We
So-
used to do pitch off, when we grew up in the forest, there was pitch, certain
Yeah.
kinds of pitch.
Yeah, I
you
don't
could
like
put
it.
on
Sure.
your- I didn't mind it, but it used to
Krista?
kind of stick on your teeth.
Yeah, it does.
Why don't you be cool?
Film on your teeth.
Okay.
But I didn't mind
Try
it.
being cool.
And we used to chew the tar off the top. I
Sure.
remember doing that.
We
Until
knew.
she said it, I didn't remember that.
We knew what it was and what to do with it, but
I wouldn't chew on
actually-
tar if you paid me.
Oh, once you
That's
saw
kind
it,
of
it's
a
kind
good
of neat.
taste.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's kind of neat.
Neat.
Yeah.
So I
I've
really
never done
never
it,
learned
just
to
been
chew
missing
gum.
out
I
on
never
life.
cared about it.
I chew it constantly. I chew it so much at work that when I get off work, I can't taste anything.
Oh,
I've
really?
chewed it. I'll start in the morning and forget I have it, and I'll chew it all day long, 12 hours. When I get off, I can't taste dinner.
Yeah, but it's a nervous
Chew
thing.
Chew your taste buds away.
Are you working still?
Mhm.
I thought you were going to.
Rarely.
Oh, I
Are
did.
you back?
Oh, no, I did, but I'm working per diem, which means I schedule
Is,
what I want.
Yeah,
I don't-
which is nice.
Yeah, which is
Is
nice.
Karen coming over here, or are you going
She's
over
gonna
there?
call us.
She's going to call
Oh,
and give us the game plan. We're waiting on Greg's cousin.
How many horses does she have?
Just one.
Just one?
Is she still up, the one she sent for training?
Yes. Still that one.
Are you
Hmm.
that tired, little girl?
Well,
You guys slept all the way over, you can't possibly be tired.
we got up at 5 or 5:30 the morning we left here to go to Reno. We were there by, what was it?
3 hours. We left at 7:30.
And,
Oh, we left at 6:30.
yeah, we were
And
there
we
at
got there at
9:30.
9:30, but then we went down to Virginia Street because it was too
We
early.
went through Grass Valley. And we
Went
came,
down and got.
we came back that
yeah.
way. We got home in 3 hours too.
Mm.
Did you have any problem finding the house?
No, it's
Drove
very
right to-
easy.
Once you
Right
get started.
to
We actually drove right to here,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
amazed us
Good
both.
memory.
We had no idea what exit to take. We just went until one sounded familiar, and we got to East Avenue, and I said, that sounds familiar. So we got off, and I said, I know right where we are, because I remembered, I just knew those,
Right.
the houses down there, because we'd been through there before. And then we saw the 7-Eleven, turned in, there we were. Just as easy as could be.
Just like old Dobbin.
Yeah. Well, I thought we should go left into the freeway. I just felt like you were off on that side of the freeway.
Mhm. I get confused, and there is a space still when I get off the freeway, if I'm coming from the north and get off at the East First Avenue exit. I get mixed up. I'm not sure if I should be turning right or left, somehow or other. I think I should turn right, but that's the wrong way. I should turn
Well,
the other
when
way.
we went to the burrito wagon and we took to the road and picked up the stuff, that helps because we recognize that whole area there. We kind of got the layout of Chico a bit.
Mhm.
But last, when we first came, we got off the wrong one, we were downtown. We really just missed the whole
Yeah,
thing.
you did. Gee, East Avenue is not the best exit because don't you have to cut across that traffic to come back?
Did we have our pellet stove when you were here? No.
That's a pellet stove?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those
we
are
had it.
neat.
We've had that since
Oh,
last
they're very
winter.
neat. All our wood are our pellets. Our bags of pellets are for the winter in the basement.
How many bags you got?
In the garage.
Well, we don't heat totally with pellets because it's really supplementary heat for the downstairs. The upstairs is very toasty.
And
With the
Carolyn
central
stays
heating,
down
the
here.
downstairs stays cooler
And I'm upstairs
And-
where it's warmer.
because I don't really sit during the day.
I do my reading and my
But I
sewing up
usually
there
write it
where I'm
When
warmer.
Mother comes down for breakfast.
Hmm.
And she really
Cooler down here in the
doesn't
summer
live
too, but then I have fans up there.
Well, she's got everything she needs up there reading.
Yeah.
But I like the light so well, I'll be down there.
Yeah, I do too. I do
Anywhere there's
too.
sunshine, I'll be right there. And we don't
I
get
like
much sun
sunshine
either.
too, but it bothers my eyes too much of it anymore. Or let's say not sunshine, but just light.
Like,
What causes the pollution here in the valley?
probably burning. They can
Oh.
still burn leaves in the county.
Oh, I see.
They were burning something big as we were coming up the highway.
Probably
They were
rice
big.
fields.
I don't know
They
what it
still
was.
are burning rice fields.
If they're harvesting
Rice? They grow rice here?
Oh, yes,
Huh.
just south of, just down 99.
If you're going to Sacramento, you go through the rice fields.
Yeah, but he didn't realize they were so close. All
Hmm.
around
I didn't
Gridley
know
are
you had
rice
any.
fields.
I'll be.
Well, that must be what they're doing.
Elliot and I were in Ely last weekend, and we camped overnight in his Volkswagen bus in Austin, Nevada. That's about middle of the state,
Uh-huh.
and it's like a wide spot in the road, but it's it's 7,000 feet above sea level, and the stars. The sky was so clean at night. I mean, you could see the Milky Way. You could see all the little spots. I mean, it was lit up the whole sky. It was so neat.
Isn't it beautiful? I'll never forget doing the cross country with, when we brought Janice to your little house. You remember down where the Italian, was it the Italian or the Polish man? The one whose wife just died. Remember that little house you had?
Yeah, on Valley Road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we brought Janice there.
I'll never forget it.
From Massachusetts.
How are Stephen's children?
When she was in
Again,
high
pretty
school.
big.
They are.
And left her
Bigger
with
than
you
I
and
realized. I never see them
June.
very
How
often.
old are they now?
And we had
And Kendall's
Oh.
in fourth, I think.
what was
Kendall's
that,
in fourth. Yeah, Steve works at Sparks.
what was
And I
that
used to
French
do for
foreign
him
car
work,
that
but they got
begins
new
with an A?
management that doesn't waste their money.
Well, they were in the Volvo then, weren't they?
As much
The red
on-call.
one?
The on-call people just.
Well, give me, what was the other one you had that was foreign?
And Debbie.
I had a Peugeot.
No. There was
When did we
another.
have size funeral, honey? 6 months
Audi.
ago, maybe?
No,
Oh,
about 3 months back.
Now-
I remember that, yep.
Yeah. And anyhow, Jan and I sat in the back seat.
In fact, we're in one
And we could lay our head
congregation.
on the back
So our
and look out
pastor,
that
they don't
big
see
back
So we
window.
don't see them as much
And
as
of
we
course,
used
you
to. We used to be in
couldn't
the same
sleep. We
congregation.
traveled all night.
And so I haven't
We
seen her.
pulled
I
into
saw her a week ago.
uh,
I thought, "Oh,
somewhere
I went to
in
the hospital to see
Nevada.
Bernie, and I happened to be
We
working.
pulled
And
into
I didn't know Bernie
a
was in there sick.
parking lot
I
for,
said, "Why didn't you call me so I could at least
I don't know
come see
whether it
her?"
was
You
a
know,
movie
she said,
theater
"We
or
should
what
go."
now.
We just
And
stopped,
dozed
yeah.
off. That was all the sleep we
Mhm.
had.
They don't,
And then they, because we were too early to go to my sister in
He
Ashton.
comes over with, you know, on a regular basis.
Oh, it was Idaho.
Debbie's
And
not a
they
social
dropped
person.
me
You never know
at
whether
Maples.
she's gonna be in the.
and,
afterwards.
went
I
on
really
to,
truly think she has. And I told her.
But anyhow,
clinical
we
depression.
rode most of that
Sometimes
night
They're really down.
with our eyes glued
And
on the
he-
Milky Way and through that back window.
Mhm.
Oh, it
Because
was
you never know if she's
beautiful.
gonna be okay or not.
When you're out in the
We
country,
come to
away
terms
from
with
the
each other.
street
We're really on
lights,
a good basis.
just beautiful.
I feel real comfortable with her now.
How
I
far
never
out
before,
of Reno?
and I think that's
were
fine.
you?
I think you never know if it's-
180
She doesn't
miles.
know how she's
Oh,
gonna be.
where were you going?
You know,
Ely.
I could be.
But we couldn't go all the way because the gas stations were closed at night, and we needed gas, so we had to camp in the town overnight.
Um, If she.
You needed gas
I
and
find
both
the
of you
people
drive
who are
cars?
negative,
Well,
she should
his
have-
Volkswagen has a small gas tank and doesn't get good mileage, so we got stuck right there.
Oh, it wasn't your car.
No. Mine goes long ways.
You know,
Yeah, I
think-
never heard
I
of a
think
car
everybody
that
gets to
couldn't.
say sometimes where nothing's good. You're not good.
You couldn't
Nobody
make a
else is good.
trip
This
on
is
a
what
gas
makes you better.
tank.
Yeah.
Because
Makes you happy.
I don't know, I know we
People
do,
tend to avoid people.
we fill up before we go to
There's,
Reno.
one of the women
And
in
we
our
fill up
court,
on the way back.
Yeah.
I
really
don't know if that's
Yeah.
very
necessary,
negative. And,
but we do it.
I know that another woman in our court has said to me, you know.
But I love to
I'd
travel
like
at
to
night.
do more for
Oh,
her, but I can't.
Luke and I used to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go across the Gulf. Or
So
not
negative.
The Gulf.
But-
Yeah, that was pretty tricky. That'd be tricky if you drove across the Gulf.
The Everglades.
Oh, yeah.
On the way to the Gulf.
Well,
And we'd
I understand
get there
that
at 6 o'clock in the
because
morning
it's hard to
when
keep
the
with
sun
the
was
person
coming
like
up
that.
and be out on the
People
beach
avoid-
shelling.
Oh, yeah, shelling.
And sometimes
Oh.
even you feel bad, you don't know why.
Boy,
I was thinking he was fishing.
All that Marco Island is now developed into homes. No- no more Marco Island as the Sheller's Paradise it was when we lived there. It's really a crime.
Yeah, I think Florida's really suffered from the development.
Florida has really suffered, yes.
Because when she is down, it's like she's really down,
Who?
and it takes a long time. Never mind.
Some towns you can't even find
Yeah,
a place
Hmm.
for
She's
public,
upstairs.
for public access to the beach.
Go, go.
You're supposed to have,
Snoop.
but the millionaires got it all of it. Jupiter Island,
Take a look upstairs.
Juno Beach,
Did you
Sanibel,
hurt yourself?
all Marco Island,
Huh?
all those beautiful islands and
But,
beautiful areas
Her kids have
on
gotten
the,
really Ken
with,
back 'cause I think
where
they're
you'd
big.
want to have for public.
Yeah. She's always been a chump.
What Debbie's told.
Many's the time they run
We only met
us
her
off,
once.
She's heavy.
Jupiter Island.
Thanks, Mom.
Because that's where all
So,
Thanks
the
for calling me.
senators and the Kennedys and
It's probably been
anybody
hard with
that's
her.
anybody,
Dad,
Perry
her
Como,
mother,
they all
my
have
father.
their homes there, their summer homes, which they don't use most of the time. You drive through the highway, or not the highway, but the road through there.
Good stuff.
All
Oh,
those
really?
properties are big chain links across. You don't get in them. All protected by troopers
And she had on,
and with spy glasses. We'd be out on the beach, and pretty soon we'd have a officer
I know.
at our elbow
I know.
So she's quite formal.
telling us we were trespassing. Now, you don't
Yeah, and the
trespass
kids are
on
normal
ocean
too.
property.
I think
Mm.
It's supposed to be built
Maybe
with
it's from
access
Union East or something.
to the
It
ocean.
may be,
for the public.
except that it's very easy once you
Well,
live in
they've
the
got
West to
such
adapt.
control over that, and it's all
Yeah, carefree living.
political
How many times I
setup.
put a dress on,
Yeah.
really, is if I'm
Beautiful.
going to a play. I
Homes,
could wear
and
pants.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Because anything goes
area.
at the college.
Yeah.
But usually I do wear a skirt
Hmm.
or.
Wonder how much those houses we lived in Florida are selling for nowadays.
And the other time would be when
I
I
don't
went to.
know.
They were awful cheap back then.
I always wear one.
Oh, I know. When I think we paid 11 for ours, which was too much money.
Wear a dress.
And
11.
I sold it for,
Regularly the meetings.
I think it was
I
9,
can't think of any other reason why I would.
and had to
No, I
pay
know it.
real.
Even if I went to the city, when I go to
realtor.
the city, I still don't.
I
wear
sold
dresses.
to a realtor.
It's just not something.
You couldn't move
I
property.
can't even think.
We
I'm
had
trying to think
just
of
had
situation
a
where, Even
hurricane.
if I went to the opera.
Our second
Or-
one,
So,
well,
an event,
that
you
I
know,
went
just-
through.
just
I went
people
through
wear
one
it.
just before Luke
So,
died,
it is
when
really
he
a-
was
It's
alive.
really for church.
And I went through the same year, I went through
Well,
another
I
one.
do, and you can
by
wear
myself.
pants, and of course the young people wear
And,
shorts, anything goes.
In August.
Except
And
that I
mainly they
just
were
would not feel
Well,
comfortable.
we always wear
after
dresses.
Chris, you got that noise down there. You
July,
really tape.
hurricane
Casual.
Casual clothes.
season.
Not
I
just
think
because I want
that's
them to
not-
think
And,
it's special.
uh,
I want them to think
the
it's a
people
casual thing.
that
There's
bought
so
it,
much sex in that.
I
So if
uh,
you change their
lived in a
clothes,
mobile
even the little
home
ones,
that
they're
had
2 or 3
been
years old,
wrecked.
they know, okay, we're
But
changing
they
them
were
for good closed.
they sold real estate.
That's true too.
And
That's
so
one of the main reasons I think.
they really did me
You wear your good clothes.
dirty on mine,
Professional
but
stuff, and then it's
oh,
Friday.
I've had 8 years
So
there,
you're
and
doing
I
something
figured
special, you don't play.
I was
You know,
alone.
I'm
It was a
alone,
big,
so-
you know, what a big
you know,
corner
what
we
you normally
had.
do.
And it would have meant hiring everything
Like that
done,
before,
so.
but You don't wear any.
What'd you
About a
see
year
up
and a
there,
half
Mariah?
after Luke died, I sold it.
Find anything of
Two
interest?
bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
Hmm.
You got it all checked out. Oh, you're such a nice girl. And so
Mom.
helpful,
Chris.
so helpful.
Remember that woods behind your, to the side of your place where the kids had their hut? I imagine that's all wall-to-wall houses.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
They weren't building such good houses in those days either. A lot of that property was built by HUD, and it's
Hmm.
property that's been fallen apart.
Oh, miss.
They've had a lot of
I don't
trouble
want it to stick to you.
with all that cheap property. I can't recall the names of those places, but I remembered
Not as bad.
doing them. Maybe if I thought a while, I could remember.
The ones where we lived?
Huh?
The ones where we lived, you mean?
Oh,
Those houses?
even outside of where you live,
Mm.
Yeah. I can put mine in the
the bigger areas.
I should drink more water. I just don't.
I don't do that, but we should.
I should. It's good for it.
They were noted developers. They built over in Nevada, or
Is that true? Well, that is true. Do you
Arizona.
have a problem?
Oh, all the time,
Oh,
chronically.
that is very true.
Well,
Huh.
it's hard for me to do.
And cranberry juice.
Yeah, I used to drink that by the gallon, and I even kind of gotten
Oh,
away.
boy.
Just drink that. I'll buy a gallon a week and it's done.
I love it.
Well, they'll drink anything. I think if I had anything wet in the house, you guys would drink it. You and your dad.
What's going on?
No, leave her alone.
You're fat here.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Well, we just might try beaming you someplace
Yeah, for sure.
with the
Yeah.
camcorder. This beamer.
Yeah, I'll
with
beam you up with the camcorder. Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Just don't walk in front of me all the time. Keep hitting my knee and hurting it.
Oh, do you have a problem with your knee?
Oh, all the time.
Crawling
Bad
around
knees.
doing that car?
Bad, no, skiing too much.
Oh, you have a
Don't
ski,
lean on me,
you have a
please.
ski knee? One or two, Greg?
Please, Mariah.
His
Are
broken
we-
ankle, I think, bothers him more than anything else.
Broken ankle?
When he broke his ankle that same day.
No, my knees are just weak.
No, it's gonna be good.
No, just get off me, okay?
I brought my little lady in the car. I'm doing that lately.
She's crazy. She's that coils. Wrap her
But
arms.
I like it.
Oh,
You
is
didn't
that
shave
with
your
wax?
legs? No, you know, it just put on your legs, it rips off the
It's a
hair.
terrible razor that pinches your hair and
It's
then
like-
yanks
it's
it
like
out.
wax, is it?
Oh, no, you know
It's
how
hard.
wax is, you put it on,
It's,
it tears
it's
all
the
over
worst
out.
thing in the
Well,
world.
this is a little machine, and you just run
Oh,
it down
it's-
your leg,
And it rips it from the
out.
roots. Oh, that's what he wanted to show you.
Oh, he got a camcorder.
good guesser.
This is Carolyn's property, where she's going to have 2 horses. And believe me, they'll live in luxury.
Good.
Karen's horse is so sleek and shiny, and this one's all.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if you stand,
All
roll the latch back so it can't.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just open it?
You can open it.
Have your soda still? No soda left?
Yeah, just breathe down my neck like that,
Yeah,
buddy.
he's gonna.
Look at.
Hello.
Oh, I have more carrots.
Come on, your horse is on TV now.
Hey, Mr. Ed. What's his name again?
Try.
Try.
What's going on with all these people?
That's good. Go to your right.
What's going on? Oh my, the flies in their eyes are terrible.
those little masks are. Becky, you could get a job riding that horse. Yeah. Just not for the doctor.
Manners. Thank you. Okay.
That is a beauty, that one. Did you feel under his name, Karen? Yeah, right under his name. Just feel it. I can't.
Okay, if water, if there's gravity and water goes downward, the last thing you do is for them to stay right around the belly. I do that a couple of times.
Like squeegee.
Squeegee.
Does he like that, Karen? The
Krista
water?
can do the other side.
What's that? Does he like the water?
Sometimes. He doesn't like it on, like his flanks and his back.
And when each of the kids.
Oh, my whole life.
Well, not the whole thing. That's too long, but
I'd have to write it out and then read it. I never could.
well,
You could do an oral history. Just answer questions like an interview.
I never could
What's-
keep it.
what's the first car you rode in when you were a kid?
Uh,
The first car you ever rode in, do you know what kind it was?
oh, yeah, it was a Dodge. My father always bought a Dodge. And that was the first car, was a touring car.
A Dodge?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was a touring car with those curtains you had to put up if it rained or snowed. No windshield wipers, you had to get out and hand wipe the windshield.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was the car he bought. I must have been 14 years old because it was the car I learned to drive on. And the car that I drove to high school on with for 4 years.
You drove a car when you went to high school?
My father bought that for us to drive to high school.
That's pretty fancy for back in that
No, it
year.
wasn't fancy because we lived 7 miles from town, 14-mile round trip. And there was no other way we could get a high school education. And my oldest sister was, she had
Grandma, did you ever ride in a horse carriage?
oh yes, we had one.
Oh, really?
We had one with double seat. We had both kinds. We had the buggy, the horse and buggy type with just 2 people. And we had the carriage that took the family. That was 2 seats.
Oh. Cool.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to ride in one.
Yeah, but just think how bad that could be.
Why?
That was 90 years ago. Whoever wants to carry this upstairs and put it in my room is,
Okay.
you know where it goes on the side of the dresser.
Okay.
I don't have any light on.
Oh, that's okay.
I gotta go up and put the, open up the,
Boy, it's lovely in here now.
How much was a loaf of bread when you remember when you first shopped?
nickel.
A nickel?
Uh,
What is a
Mama
loaf of
used-
bread now? $1.50?
Yeah, Mama used to make her own, all the farmers did. It was a treat if Dad would come home with a loaf of bread from the store. Boughton bread, we called it. It was a treat,
Yeah.
because they made their own donuts and everything. Because farmers in those days, well, today too, but in those days, remember, we were one of the first farmers to have a car, probably the first. And I think the only reason we got it was because my older sister, who, as I said, was paralyzed in one leg, although she learned to swim and ride a horseback and do everything. When she came to California, she never learned as long as she was in Michigan, all the while she went to high school. But when she graduated from high school, my father let her take my two younger sisters and go to California because everybody Mama owned had come to California, and Dad's parents, my grandfather and grandmother, had come to Anaheim for Grandpa's health. And I think about 5 of his brothers and sisters all came to California with their families, all in that one time when I was 10 years old.
So that was about 1912?
When I was 10 years old, that would be 1912. Yep.
That was before the First World War and you moved to Anaheim?
My grandparents were in Anaheim. My dad and one of his sisters stayed in Michigan. But the other 5 brothers and sisters moved to California when Grandpa and Grandma did with their families. And they all settled on orange ranches and made money. And my dad came in when Dick was 3 and he's 60 now. So when was that?
3?
He was
57 years ago?
He's 60 now, so that
1934?
was 30. In the 1930s, let's say, Dad and Mama came to California, sold their Michigan farm and about a piece of Anaheim orange grove, an acreage, small, and went bust. Took everything he had. And Dad had made money in Michigan, lost it all. So at his age, all we kids were raised and married. He went back to Michigan and his best friend staked him to a farm there, bought the farm for him. And it was a farm right next to where Mama was raised that her parents lived on. And he paid off that farm and made enough money to keep him going and died in his 60s. So, but he was a hard worker. And that was probably part of the thing that got to him in those days. It was unbelievable, not unbelievable, but it was normal for people to die in their 60s. That was old age for those years.
And they worked
Today, it's 80, and it's even
about right.
getting higher. And so,
So was your dad in the First World War?
no, he was French, and he thought he had become a citizen when he married Mama. But those things changed, and it changed. He didn't know which way it changed, but he found out later in life that he wasn't a citizen by marrying her, by marrying an American-born person, which was, in some cases, it was, at some point in time, it was true. If you married an American, you automatically became an American.
Did you
I
speak
don't know how
French?
it works
Did you
today.
learn to speak French when you were young?
Huh?
Did you speak French because of your
Oh,
father?
yeah, I had to speak French. My grandparents couldn't speak English, and I learned to speak French probably as good when remember when you're a young kid and your parents are across the road from you and you're there with each other until you're 10 years old. A young child picks up a language
Yeah.
like you never
Do
believe.
you still speak it?
Huh?
Can you still speak French?
No, I can read a bit of it. No, I took it in high school, but it wasn't the same. I took it in high school because I wanted to write to my grandparents in California, and I was the only one that did. And to this day, I'm the only one, I think, that writes letters. And at that time, well, I was in high school when I was in high school when I was 14. I graduated from grade school when I was 12, but no, I was 12 when I graduated, but I was 13 in August. We graduated in May. I was 13 in August. Then I had to wait till the next year because Dad, I couldn't get a driver's license till I was 14. So when I was 14, I was in high school. When I was 18, I was graduated. When I was working in an office. When I was and living at the YWCA. When I was 19, I was married.
And then did you have kids right away? Did you have kids right away?
Oh yeah, in those days, what
Junior?
else did you do? You didn't know anything. Even
She was blessed
Right away. Were you the first?
right away.
You were the first.
I'm the first.
Number one, right over
What a
here.
blessing.
It's getting thick now. What was your dad's last name? It was a French name then, huh?
Russell, Bercot. Pronounce it any way you want.
So
He was
that's French.
he was very blonde. You wouldn't believe it because you think of French people as being dark. But it depends on the part of France you live in. If you're in southern France, like Italy and warm countries, you're dark-skinned. Dad was blonde. His hair was not blonde, but he was very fair. He was so fair that he always sunburned
Oh,
rather than got brown. And my sister Mabel is the only one like him. Mabel is still living. She's the youngest now, Dorothy, and Mabel, and then I'm the oldest now, then Dorothy, and then Mabel. My youngest and my oldest sister died about 10 years
so you
ago.
had 5 girls?
Mm.
5 girls in the family?
Yeah.
No boys?
No.
Oh my, for a farmer, that's too bad.
Yeah, for a
We
farmer,
learned
that's
to
a
work,
disaster.
so
Yeah.
don't think
Oh,
we. I pitched hay and stacked shocked wheat and oats and pitched hay and pulled sugar beets and
yeah.
we did everything because in France the women worked and we kids worked.
It's not
So,
bad for you though.
uh,
That's not bad for you. It wasn't bad for you.
well, we didn't know any better. And really, I liked the country. I still love the country. And I like the peace and the quiet and the sounds. I love it out where Karen is.
Yeah.
You sit out there at night, you see the sky. You hear nothing but the insects. And the horses are stabled, so they're not snuffing around. But even then, while there are horses in all those buildings around her, most of them, they aren't close enough. I think she's on what, acre,
Yeah, she has at least that.
is she?
She told me she had about an acre.
Yeah. I know they're all on some small acreage. And, but, oh, to see a barn like she has, that to me, that's more important than her house, because those barns in our day, although animals are sheltered good, were by comparison rough.
Oh, before?
Rough.
Rougher than Karen's?
Oh, yeah, hers is high class. But of course, their horses aren't work horses
No.
either. That isn't what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is a much lesser, cheaper way of having a barn.
Yeah, yeah,
And you gotta have money to build a barn like hers is built.
yeah.
Boy, I could sleep in that barn, and many's the time we kids probably slept in ours. We had hay mows that we loved to play and jump from the mow down into the hay and into the bottom part of the barn.
Yeah, but you didn't have tractors and, you didn't have tractors and,
Not in those days.
nothing like that.
Only when I married into the Neal family. But they had acreage, they had big acreage, and they had a dairy. They had many, many cows. I don't know, it could have been 100, could have been 50. They had milking machines. They had a Delco light system because they had no power in those days, but they had their own Delco light system.
Was that in New York? Upstate New York?
Oh yeah, that was Michigan.
Oh, in Michigan.
Yeah, we were all Michigan farmers.
How old were you when you got married?
19.
Was that young for those days or not?
No, that was average.
Average, okay.
Most of them got married at 17. There was nothing else to do. You were,
Farm
you
community.
knew you were going to be a farmer's wife. You knew you were going to raise kids and keep house. What else do you have to look forward to? The only other thing a farm girl had to look forward to, if she wasn't educated, was housework in the city for the people who had money.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to high school, we had an education, but I never liked it. I didn't want to do office work, but Dad said if you're going to go to high school, and it didn't cost him a penny, the county paid our tuition. All Dad had to pay for was the running of the car. And in the winter time, when I got to bed to drive, we stayed in town. And we each lived with a family. My older sister and I each lived with a different family. And I lived with the superintendent of schools and his wife and 2 boys who also were my age. And Marguerite lived with a lawyer and his wife, and I think they had 1 or 2 children. And that's the way we got our education. When Dorothy and Mabel got old enough to go to college, to high school, they did it the same way.
Hmm. It's a little different from nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
So after
And
you,
I took 2 children with me. The little girl had polio, just like Marguerite. Same year that Marguerite had it, Helen had it. It seemed like one girl in many families was hit. None of the boys, but one girl. And Marguerite and Helen, the little girl that went with us to high school, that rode with me, and her brother. We 4 went to high school. So at 14, I had responsibility. I had to get those kids to school and back. So really, I never liked driving a car, never liked working in an office. I wanted to be a nurse. That's why Jenny is a nurse. I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted that the worst way.
And you didn't ever make that?
No. And of course, the profession, a nurse, was, you might as well have been a prostitute almost. It was not a good reputation to be a nurse.
Why did you want to be one?
Because I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to take care of people. But I'm not saying that in the nursing profession that was your what they thought of you. It was the people.
Oh.
The people, the narrow-minded people. It's like beauticians today. If a man is a beautician,
Yeah.
he's a homo. You know, it was a label they put on you.
Yeah.
And nurses didn't amount to anything. And if you said you wanted to be a nurse, oh, that was low stuff.
Ooh.
But there was a lot of, in those days, if you married a Catholic, you were disowned. If you were a Protestant, married a Catholic, you were disowned. Your families never wanted to see you again. In many cases, never did see you again. My father and mother were, one was Catholic, one was Protestant. Didn't make a bit of difference. Never bothered my grandparents. Never bothered my father. He harnessed the horse, and got out the double-seated carriage and took Mama and we kids to church every Sunday. I went to the Presbyterian church in Bay City, and Dad drove us. No, Dad was not biased, and I never grew up biased. I think everybody's entitled to their religion. I saw some awful good Catholics, and I was treated awfully good. And I've seen some awful bad ones, and I've seen some bad Protestants, and I've seen some darn good ones. And so it goes. So we never grew up biased, never. I went to school where there was a black girl sat right ahead of me. I'll never forget her name. It was Penelope Jones, my first black person. And in Bay City was a lumber town, so it was not hard to find black people doing, and we were on a river, and Saginaw Bay was right at the end of the part of the river. And it was not, we had boats, boat traffic, we had stevedores, we had all that jazz, which is not, we had the good and the bad.
Yeah.
We had a Polish town where when the Polish people were coming, see, in those days, there were more migrants. Maybe depended on the area you were in. But if they had a relative, they came.
Yeah.
And so we had down in part of Bay City was, and probably to this day, we had what we call Polish town, where all the Polish people settled and were free to settle. We had a Jewish town where the Jewish people all settled. In those days, we had the Jews that wore the hats and the long beards and the everything and the long coats, and was common to see, them. We had the classes, the real old country people.
So mostly
You
Polish and
grew up,
Jewish.
really, geography meant more to you, I'd say, in those days.
Yeah.
I don't know what the kids learn in school today, but we had it all at our fingertips.
So,
Whenever anybody says, oh gee, must have been awful living in the country, and it must have been awful living in those times, it wasn't. It was an experience that we learned and lived that you'll never get out of a book. But reading does teach you a lot. And we must have had the best library in a 2-classroom school, because every one of my sisters and me loved books. And we had them in our library. And we were graded. We got stars, earned stars by reading. And boy, we read. And to this day, my sisters all read. Marguerite and I think we're the 2 most avid readers. Dorothy and Mabel are not really, but Marguerite and I were closer in age and in being sisters. Dorothy and Mabel were like another pair in the family, and they were closer. And then Pearl was the last one, and she died, and Marguerite was killed. So
you got married probably about 1921 or somewhere in there.
21 wasn't it, wouldn't it be? I was
Yeah.
19.
Yeah,
Had to
21.
be 21.
Okay, how long were you married to your
Because
first?
I'm 2 years, 10 years. About 29, he decided he was gonna be a boat racer, which was a rich man's, but you gotta understand, he was the last child of older parents. They were in their 40s. In those days, nobody.
Well, that's old.
But those were change of life babies in my era. Nobody had a child after 40. That usually, they all believed that they would die, that they would never live to raise a child. It was a factor in their child raising. And so he was the last one of about 7 children. And things were made awfully easy for him. And he could do no wrong. He was a nice person, but he should not have been spoiled so bad.
So he went from being a farmer to a boat racer then.
Huh?
That's a long jump from being a farmer to a boat racer.
He never liked the farm.
Oh.
He was a natural-born mechanic. He had a Packard when I married, and you'd have loved to have had it.
Probably would.
I'd love to have had it. It was the biggest, most beautiful car, and he could make that run. He could make anything run. And he had a love for cars and motors that Greg has, that you have. I always said Stephen is his grandfather's child, and Grandpa Braun, and Greg is Grandpa Neil's.
He does anything to do with cars, engines,
Yeah.
motors, anything.
Dick Neil could too. So it was when he was racing motors, he was doing it as an accommodation, racing Century boats and Johnson Motors. 2 big names in those years.
Yeah, they were.
So we got yards of newspaper clippings if you ever want.
I have most of them.
Huh?
I have a bunch of them. You might have more.
That's it.
I've got medals and.
Yep. Yeah, yards of that.
But then he made his own boats eventually.
Oh, yes.
Neil hulls.
But you see, they staked him. He didn't have the money to do that. They staked him to it because he was a smart man. He could rev up a motor to make it win, and he won. And he was money in their pocket. I don't know how much he made. He died well-to-do, but I never saw a nickel of it. Never. But they staked him, and that's why he it made it easy for him to leave home.
Yeah.
He never looked back after he left home. Ah,
So when did you marry Luke?
oh gee, 7 years later.
So it's
Yeah,
late 30s.
I was in my 30s when I married Luke.
And what, he was a G or a Secret Service?
He was a
Treasury.
treasury agent for the federal government,
A-
which covered alcohol.
yeah. Going after the shiners, the moonshiners.
Oh, boy, those were the days. They were there too.
Hmm.
Albany County was wide open,
I'll bet.
wide open.
Hmm.
I had pictures, boxes of them when he died, of stills he had taken. I think I must have burned them all. I don't know what became of them. I'm sure I burned them.
Did you have your kids in the hospital or at home?
Hospital.
All of them?
Oh, yeah.
I thought back then maybe they would have them at home, especially at the
Well,
farm.
no, we had good hospitals, but it probably was the fact that I was living in the same house with my in-laws. I had the upstairs apartment, and that was probably the factor that made me decide I wanted to go to the hospital. And Bay City was only about 4 or 5 miles away from that farm. It was closer than Dad's farm.
Who was the easiest of your kids to raise?
Huh?
Who was the easiest kid to raise?
Dick.
Dick? Without a thought.
Always the boy, huh?
Well, number one, he was number 3. And he had seen what the kid girls went through. So he was a little better motivated for behavior. But also Dick was malleable. The girls have their own minds. Dick, likes to please. And Dick would do anything to please you rather than aggravate you.
Yeah.
I think the girls were the more showing their grown-up, whatever,
Independence.
yeah, independence. Where Dick didn't do that to me.
Who was the hardest
It was
one to
always
raise?
the easiest.
Who was the hardest one to raise?
Carolyn, she still is.
Oh,
Yep.
She didn't hear that, I'm
Well,
sure.
Change that.
Change. She didn't hear that.
Okay, well, I would have guessed differently, but
Okay.
No, for some reason,
Anyway, I'm in the back.
No, you're okay. Go ahead.
No links.
probably because both Virginia and I are August
Okay.
people.
Now we're all
We know
relaxed.
how not to tread on each other's toes.
2.
Carolyn is May, and that's a very independent
All calm, all relaxed.
month, or for
Were you
horoscope.
guys good?
Out looking for the cat.
which,
And
Why?
doing something.
what would you,
Simon says massaging.
if you could live your life over, what would you do differently?
I'd be a nurse, and I certainly wouldn't get married at 19.
So remember this, Ryan. Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
You wanna say
What else
If-
do you want me to do with
What
it?
is?
Well, that, I kind of figured you'd say you'd be a
Oh,
nurse.
boy. I don't know if we're both.
Well,
with our hips.
I like people. I like to read about them. I like to, I like people. I don't like all people. I mean, I don't have to have people under my feet to entertain me. But I like to help people. Maybe that's what traps me in wanting to be a nurse. I like to help people. I like to feel I'm
Shut up.
help.
Hmm.
And if
Enough.
I can't
Had your
do
face
it,
for today.
then I'm
Oh, whiner. Oh, whiner, I see you.
I'm
Twice
pretty
a
much,
year, you're gonna be a whiner. Okay, thank you.
left to my own, which I have been most of
better
my
come
life,
now,
because
you know that.
in my years of being a widow, my
Jim has
30
two watches
years,
on.
I've I've lived
One London
alone
time and
most of it. This is the
one
most
West
I've
Coast
lived
time, huh?
with anybody these 2 years with Caroline.
What word, what motto or saying of life would you say is the best
Do
one for
unto
your
others.
the best one for your kids and grandchildren to live by?
Do unto others the way you want
I
to
thought
be
I got one on us.
done by.
I thought
Okay.
we had one on California time and the other one,
Alrighty. Any other questions, June, that you can think of?
What? Can I say one?
Yeah.
What thing that has happened in your lifetime do you think that you'd like to pass to all your grandchildren and stuff?
What?
Oh, never mind. You
What
already
did
did
you
that.
Same thing, go ahead.
You already did that.
No, you can say it again.
What do you do? What thing that happened in your life do you want to pass on to all your?
What scenes?
No, what things that
What
has happened in
things?
your life?
Well, my traveling has been my nicest. And you gotta remember when I was a little country girl, to go across the road and live with, or stay overnight with my grandmother was a big chore for me. I never wanted to go from home. I never wanted to travel. And when my sisters came to California, I wasn't married then. I could have come with them, but I never wanted to travel. And the traveling idea never hit me till after Luke died. And then I was at loose ends after I did all my work with the jobs that I did after he died. I did them mainly to earn my Social Security because Luke did not have Social Security. I guess they do today, federal government, but in those days they didn't.
I think they do now.
Yeah, I think now they do. So I think it would be my traveling to do your traveling. Don't feel like you gotta have somebody to travel with you, like you have to get married to travel, because you'll never make it. And I never made it after I got married until I was a widow. And I was fortunate, I guess I was a widow at 60. I mean, I was young enough
To do.
to do it.
I can't think of any more questions.
Did you ask her?
You're not Barbara Walters over there.
I'm not Dan Rather either.
No, but it could be interpreted that way.
So a widower, a
I said I
widower.
was one of the fortunate ones.
You were a widow by 60.
Well,
Like Auntie Mame.
well, we'd have never settled in Florida if Luke would have had any gumption, but he never wanted to travel. So then he gets me into Florida and saddles me with a house. And the same year we buy the house, he wants to go to Iowa.
Yeah.
I said, go to Iowa. He took the car and drove to Iowa all by himself. He never went to Iowa.
Why would anybody want to go to Iowa?
Huh? That's where he was from.
Oh,
And in all the years, he wasn't that crazy about going to Iowa, but just because we were settled, he was going to go to Iowa. So maybe when I said at 60 I was a widow, maybe I meant it. I don't know. I think a psychologist would look internally and say, oh, you had it coming. You were wishing it. No, I'm not sure because,
Good to see the kitty again.
but Luke would never have traveled with me if he'd lived till he was my age.
you'd still be living in Florida in that little gray house or
Oh,
what
yeah,
it
he
was.
was only 3 years older than me, but Luke came from a country that was dead to start with. I mean, an area
Oh, Iowa.
that was really behind the times. And his family were mainly school teachers. And I think if he hadn't broken away, he'd have been a school teacher too. But anyhow, they were not happy when I married him
Oh,
because he had a good job with the government. I mean, by comparison with most people in their bracket, he had a steady income, $2,100 a year. That's what we, when he married me with 3 children, $2,100 a year.
Greg just showed.
And that upset them because they were bleeding him. They always were buying something they didn't have the money for. And so when I married him, that really ticked them off. They were never too happy with me because I spoiled their little game. Because see, Luke was already in his 30s. I was in my 30s too when I married, but he was 33 years older than me. I think I was about 34 and he was probably 37, something like that.
gee, and you'd never been married before.
No, no, they had a good thing going
Yeah.
with poor Luke. And Luke was a good man. He was too good, probably. He should have been a little more devilish, a little more fiery, and probably a little more argumentative, you know.
Yeah, right. Come on, Karen, you want to
Well, he was a good fisherman.
He was too good. Luke was a good man. Everybody liked Luke. But he never gave you an argument and he never gave you a fight, you know. And after a while,
Like he was pretty
sometimes
wise.
you needed that. Of course, if he'd ever hit me, I'd probably hit him back. I'm sure I would, but even then, you
How do I
know,
believe that?
sometimes life calls for that, or a marriage calls for that. Just to put a spark in it. But no, Luke was a good man. You couldn't have asked for him. But he had no responsibility in the children. He couldn't bear it to tell them not to do this or that. He'd tell me. So I raised the kids. So what they are is my fault.
You did all right, if you ask me.
But he liked the children, and he got along with them.
Greg thought he was the greatest. Took him everywhere, took him fishing. Did
Huh?
everything. So he did everything with Greg.
Yeah, he was.
He took him.
Was it you kids that he used to? Who got the Money Mountain?
Money Mountain, Greg and I.
All of them.
We all did. Kristen and Greg and I. Steve? Did Steve go to Money
I
Mountain?
doubt it.
Was he too young?
He's 5 years younger than Greg, so that's a possibility.
Yeah,
Too much difference.
he's gonna be 40.
Steven?
Yep.
Is there any more?
Yeah,
Do you remember Money Mountain, Greg?
he'll be 40 next month.
What do you
Well,
mean?
tell us about Money Mountain.
Oh, I thought
Well,
maybe for fire.
That was in Binghamton.
Where did Frank go?
But no, Hyde Park.
Oh, he's still there. He's mine.
Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie, Hyde Park?
Where was it really?
Yeah, it was in
Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
does bite,
yeah.
and he
Yeah.
does scratch. He love bites, but he bites too hard.
What was Money
Greg
Mountain?
was the one that had the Money Mountain, or not Money Mountain.
Big
What
Rock
was
Candy
for
Mountain.
cheese?
Huh?
Oh.
Rock Candy Mountain.
You had Rock
When they
Candy
kind of
Mountain.
playing with you,
Yeah.
When he gets
Oh,
carried
he
away.
drop
But
money?
there
My
was
size.
Money Mountain was there too.
Oh, yeah, every day
You went to
took
Money
out-
Mountain with Graham.
Every day you took out for, when you didn't have anything at the house to keep it, you took off for that Rock Candy Mountain. His little hidey hole. He was about that high and about that high and about that wide. Always red cheeks, chapped, runny nose. Always chapped. He had the
Now
kind
we
of
know
skin.
He still got red cheeks. He got rid of the red
Yeah,
nose.
he had the kind of skin that was always sensitive to coloring. And the cold weather, I don't know, maybe his eyes were crying
So see,
too.
it's not my beer drinking.
Was
Not
that,
your beer.
Could I get another beer?
Sure.
I don't want to get up though.
Well, what about, didn't
sounds-
Gramps take Greg to Money Mountain too, with Kristen and
I think
myself?
I think you all had a turn at Money Mountain.
What happened at Money Mountain?
Nothing, that's where the money was.
Was there money there, Greg?
So
Well, yeah, there occasionally was money there.
Yeah,
All the time, or just
Grandpa
every
used to
time you
drop
went?
the money.
Every time we went, wasn't there money every time we went with
Sure.
Gramps, we found money?
every time we ended up
Then-
there, but I don't know that we
Thanks.
all went that many times.
Yeah, but
Well, every time we
what was the
visited.
what was the true reputation of Money Mountain?
Huh?
What was the true reputation of Money Mountain?
Well, what do you mean? Did they grow there or did Gramps put it there?
Oh, Gramps dropped the money there,
Of course.
but you know what I heard why he did it?
Why?
Because it was a makeout space, a makeout place for lovers.
Oh, whoever said that?
Your daughter,
Carolyn?
and he used to drop the money to lead us away from the used condoms.
No. Yes, that is.
Yes.
No, I don't know. She was smarter than I in those days, so maybe she saw something. She was more world-wise. She still says I'm naive, so I'm sure she was more world-wise when I took her up there about that high than I was. I thought they were balloons and you thought they were condoms.
I knew they were.
Huh?
I knew they were.
And I thought they were balloons probably because I was a dummy.
I was higher than this mother. These were my children that were growing up there. I
Yeah.
was married.
So you-
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I wasn't a child.
That's right.
Yeah. But we always found money there.
Well, what's rock candy man, is that different?
Rock Candy was that little,
Oh,
it was about a block away, wasn't it, Greg? And people used to have gardens up there, right? And you had the big rock mountain and I think, it's a big boulder.
Oh,
And Greg had appropriated it for his own little spot. And did you have a garden there, or did?
No, I just found things growing and I'd bring them home.
But there was gardens up there, weren't there?
Yeah, there was asparagus up there. I brought asparagus home one day.
He was pilfering.
I did.
He's up there
Ripping them
pilfering. I brought home the vegetables for dinner, Mom.
I think
I wonder why they called it rock candy man.
I don't know.
It's after a
Oh, that
song by
was-
Tex Ritter
It was probably something we'd read.
or
It
Gene
was
Autry or
just-
one of those guys.
Yeah, it was
Really?
just something we dubbed it, that,
Not in front, Chris.
you know.
there's a cat. I told him to get like this.
Oh, right. Sit upstairs.
Hmm.
You couldn't-
There's a chair.
You couldn't just call it a stone. You had to give it a fancy
Go
name.
up in there,
Big
have
fancy
the
man.
So-
turn the whole light on.
And it may have been part of a story. I don't know now why it was called that, but it was a good name. It stuck.
Can you pull it out?
See,
I don't
Go
remember
into the
about
spare
that.
room and turn on the light. She wants to.
Those-
Was that just your place, Greg? Rock Candy Mountain?
that?
Yeah.
It was at the end of the
Yeah,
street.
it was just Greg's, it wasn't on Greg's property even, on their property. It was about, maybe a half a block from Jenny's.
Yeah.
And it was a place he found, and it's just a
Carolyn, when
nice
you-
big rock.
When you first were like real little, you lived like on a farm then?
No, I don't think, I never lived on a farm.
So
We
you
lived
were
in the city.
in the city?
Yeah, we were in
Maybe when I was an
when we
infant.
moved from the Neal farm, we went into Bay City proper, the town. And we had a rent on 3rd Street, I think it was. Someplace anyhow in Bay City.
So did you always have like furnaces and stuff, or did you have to have coal heat or
Yeah.
wood stoves or what?
But we always had furnaces.
Oh, always right in
Except,
the beginning?
no, not where I was raised, but in the Neal farm. The Neal farm had electricity because they had their own Delta darn, I forgot the name of it. It was a,
Generator,
huh?
generator.
Yeah. It was their own way of making electricity because they had milking machines. They had a big milk operation.
They
that-
sound they had a lot of money to begin with, the Neal family. Did they have a lot of
Well,
money?
by hook or by crook, they got it because they were always in lawsuits.
Mm.
That old man was he didn't, my memory of my father-in-law was he was an old bastard that just argued with everybody. Nobody was right, but nobody was right. He had a reputation for, if you opened up your mouth that disagreed with him, he had you in court. He was an old bastard. I don't know how he ever lived so long. He didn't live that long, but it was too long for me.
Ah. See, I thought you were gonna say you had wood stoves, and I've seen pictures of.
No, we had a furnace, we had, the house had everything. I don't know, knowing his reputation or thinking about it now, and I haven't thought about him in 100 years, I don't know if he ever paid for the farm, but he must have because he was always in court. They'd had to pay for it, but
Didn't you have anything like outhouses or anything? You always had regular bathrooms and everything?
we had an indoor bathroom, yeah. Yeah, we had an indoor bathroom.
Well,
Yeah,
not
we
as
had
old as I
flush-
thought. Great.
Yeah, we had flush toilet, no. When I married at 19, I went into as good as I would have had downtown, except it was acreage. It was acres and acres of cattle feed, hay and grain, stuff for, silage, corn for cows. It was a big dairy farm. They had, I think they were running 2 wagons, both Dick Neal and his brother, his older brother Nelson, were each had a truck. They had motor trucks in those days.
Carolyn, did you know your grandparents that spoke French? Did you ever meet them? And so you never spoke French, but you and Gigi did?
No, they were.
I never knew that. That's strange, don't you think? I didn't even know you guys were part French.
Oh,
Yeah, Brema is French, Irish, German, and English.
Yeah, my father was born in France. My mother was born in the USA. Her,
see, those
her,
would be my great
her grandparents, her grandparents were born in Germany, but her parents were American.
So then actually you're only a quarter French. No, your
Yeah.
dad was half French, or fully French. So, you'd be a
Who's
half.
half French? Does that thing flip flop? It's a flip flopper.
He's brought back.
Did you
No,
open the
he's
windows,
kinda
Carol?
And nobody feeds him? He comes over here?
Well, my mother has allowed
Just
him in
flips
on
up.
various occasions, so he's
He's a neat cat. I like him very
Have
much.
they figured out how
Yes,
they're
this
gonna
is a home
sleep?
away from home.
I took the cat and tried to get it out.
Stop it, no.
Back, crack. I love that thing.
Well, what else, Graham?
I don't know.
What else has been exciting? Geez, she saw everything from no cars to cars and airplanes to man on the moon. What else have you
Everything,
seen?
yeah.
You've seen it all.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I
What
don't-
about that trip you took in the Stutz Bearcat?
My what?
Didn't you take a trip in a Stutz Bearcat?
just get back in
No.
That old roadster, that open car?
Dick Neal had a Packard
Oh.
when I married him. Which, boy, I tell you, most anybody'd give their eye teeth to own today.
There he was.
I got a picture of him with a 36 or 34 Ford with a custom-built trailer behind it with 3 racing boats on it,
Yeah,
with his name on it.
Really?
yeah.
It's very
Yeah, he's got a lot of
high buck
tape.
rig. for the day. I mean, that cost some dear money back then.
Listen, when he died, as George could tell you, that man had stocks and money. But anyhow, I know that Century Boats and Johnson Motors set him up in the business in Kansas City. And that's not that, I'm sure that he paid, it was his business before he sold it and moved to Florida, where he died. But that was the money behind him that got him away from me and my three. But he never married. He married, the woman he married was his bookkeeper or somebody in his business. And she was very sad because she could not have children. But she must have been a very good woman, because after he married her, he or she, Louise, used to send my three, I think it was $15 at Christmas time, which never have I had a nickel from Dick Neal to raise those kids, nor any money in any way when they lived with me. This all happened after he married Louise and the kids were out on their own. So I don't know, she was a very tiny, thin woman. Wasn't anybody like I'd expect Dick Neal to marry. But I don't know. Maybe he married her because she was a good bookkeeper. I don't know what was in his mind. But anyhow, she had to be a good woman, because she was the one that saw that when she died, that the estate was divided in two with the three children, and never did. He could have done that before he died. He'd have saved some money by getting his investments out to his kids. But I don't know. When they tell me about a hereafter, I'm telling you, don't put a hereafter in my, but don't think I'm aiming for a hereafter. I don't want to see any of those people. No, I'm not interested. Who's out there, Frank?
Frank, he's out there fighting with Carolyn.
He fights still.
Yeah,
Yeah, he does.
he was malleable.
Greg?
Carolyn always had a soapbox,
Gregory?
and everybody heard
Two
it.
sisters older than him that were probably.
I didn't ask her about who her favorite grandchild
No,
was.
that's what, did you ask her who her youngest grandchild is?
Who is the youngest
But listen
grandchild?
now, Virginia also has a mind of her
I was
own.
very independent.
But I think Virginia took a lot of her
I still
lessons
am
from
independent.
Carolyn.
I
From
wouldn't have thought
Carolyn.
that at all.
Because I don't think they see eye to eye too much.
Ask her her grandchildren.
Especially when
But you
you're-
gotta know the genes behind it all in order to
Especially
know
when you look
why
at,
these,
you know, a
why
lot of
we
my
were such
contemporaries, my peers,
opinionated
go
people.
off on a place by themselves and do everything.
See, my father was
Yeah.
an easy man.
So
My
I'm
mother was more
independent in that
uh,
way.
the boss, the
Ahead of
the
your
hard
times,
one.
basically.
The hard one on the children and the hard one probably on my
Right.
dad.
She didn't raise them.
Who's the youngest grandchild?
The youngest.
Probably one I don't know.
No, I got a lot of young ones. All Dick's family have the young ones. They're all babies.
Not great-grandchildren,
Oh,
grandchildren.
you're talking about grandchildren?
Grandchildren.
Oh, I thought you were, The youngest
When
grandchild.
she finds out what she said about her father-in-law.
Oh.
Is it Ricky?
You just have to be here when you replay.
Or is it Ricky?
Either Nancy or Mary Louise,
Prices.
Carolyn.
Yeah.
Which is the youngest? Mary Louise must be my youngest, or is it
Larry.
Larry.
Who's,
Larry's 30, I think.
He's the youngest.
Yeah.
So who was your easiest grandchild for Gigi?
well,
Huh?
Who was
that's
the
not a
easiest
fair
grandchild?
question.
That's fair.
My easiest grandchild for what?
To raise.
To raise?
She didn't raise her
I
grandchildren.
never raised my grandchildren.
Oh, no, I mean, which one of us was the easiest as grandchildren?
You stop scratching that door.
There were none of you really that were with me long enough for me to say, because you were all visiting me. I had you when you were a baby. I had for a week, and I had Kristen when she was a baby for a week when Carolyn and Joe were on vacation. But other than that,
Grandmothers aren't involved with raising grandchildren generally.
they were visiting as family. And
Oh,
so
it's all right.
I never concentrated on any of them. In fact, I have tried, and Carolyn will verify that, to treat all my grandchildren the same. Money-wise, any way I do it, I try to do it equally. I have no favorites
Yeah, that's the way that
because
should
I like them all, and I like them all in different ways. And
Like the
Who-
little acrobat.
Who is the most suicidal grandchild?
go. Suicidal.
fortunately,
His
I
old-
have.
Her oldest grandchild was the most suicidal.
Suicidal, we have suicidal grandchildren.
Not the oldest. Second oldest.
Oh, I can't out there laughing.
Why would you be suicidal?
Most
Because
accident prone, I
Yeah.
think.
I was Evil Knievel before Evil Knievel was.
that's true, Greg. We didn't have evil Knievel.
Riding off the block
Oh,
walls.
you were always.
Showing
Oh,
off at the little
that's what you
girls,
mean by
jumping off the
suicidal.
table in the
Yeah, if you'd have said,
family room.
What?
if you would have said accident prone, I'd have said you for sure.
Daredevil.
The reason was you were always
That's what he
performing.
said, evil Knievel.
You couldn't stop performing, and if there was a little girl around, you were double performing. And that's what got you in the first place. Those two little girls next door that were visiting you in the playroom down the stairs. And you were performing. He was always performing, always.
Oh, he
Little
was,
show off.
he was
Yeah.
cute.
Is he wild?
Yeah.
Just wild, huh?
He was, he
Well, he
was,
was a show off.
he was a show-off.
Yeah, for the girl.
He was, Stephen was shy. Stephen never peeped. He was like Larry. Larry's the third one. Larry never peeps. And
And Uncle Dick.
Ricky was
Very
the
quiet.
oldest in Dick's family, and Ricky is
Non-controversial.
the one that takes over
Valuable.
everything.
The kind I'd like to have.
Yeah, I
Don't
guess
have
so.
any.
But
They take after me and Greg too.
you had the build too, I tell you. Greg and Janice were built just exactly like, our expression was like a brick back house, is what we always used when a kid was this high and this wide. When he was as high,
How high and wide?
when you were as wide as you were high,
Oh, no.
that you were, we called them brick back houses. That kid is built like a brick back house, I suppose.
Well, they have a similar term now, but it's
Stop. No, no, no.
it's a brick shit house now.
Janice was the same way. I tell you that she was as wide as she was tall,
And Stephen wasn't, huh?
and into everything. She'd have Stephen by the hand and be leading Stephen all around, climbing my trees, and it wasn't. You know, she was always the troublemaker. Leading poor Stephen
He still likes
into
the
trouble.
fun life, yeah.
Yeah, true.
He still likes to travel.
And Stephen still goes by your hand too.
Yes, he really.
Oh, yeah, so he's real easy, he doesn't like any controversy. Everything has to
But
be
that
good.
was a nice house you had in the woods there, wasn't it? Remember the house at,
In Florida?
Yeah.
The one you cut in half?
I cut in half.
You and my mom took a saw and cut it in half.
Why?
Because you wanted to make a fort for the little kids, remember that?
No.
Yeah, Janice and Stephen were crying because they couldn't have a fort like I did, so you guys went and cut it in half one day when I was at school.
never did that now.
Well, somebody did it. Nobody's ever confessed to it.
No, I can't believe, I don't even remember that happening, Greg.
Oh, maybe it was just my mom, but I think she blamed you.
No.
They actually
I'll have to ask Jenny. I never believe, I never have seen that house cut down. Are you sure it wasn't those neighbor boys? You remember those neighbor boys that were devilish?
No, it was my mom. She did it.
After he was out.
Well,
I can't believe Jenny
go by
would
the
ever.
new house.
That was a nice
Probably helped.
house.
It was.
I think she remembered, if she did. No?
But it was just a year after that they put the road through there anyway, so they'd have torn it down
Yeah, I
anyway.
know that it was not, your property to do that with anyhow. It was not,
Well, it was traumatic for him.
it had to belong to somebody or somewhere,
What do we have
someone.
over here? Don't you know how to walk down this?
a blanket.
Remember that little boy that lived in that house next to there that we used to go over and look at was so different? Remember that house they built in the woods that we used to go over and look at? You played with the little boy. You remember he was on a slide, wasn't it?
Greg said they were roaching
And he
everywhere.
ended up rupturing his spleen
They
and
had to
had
fight
to be
him all the time.
hospitalized. Remember,
Hmm.
there was a little boy that you played with. I could tell you their name if you could. Virginia probably know.
Oh, it was off like that.
Yeah, she would know.
They had built this very odd house, or we thought it was odd, because all the bedrooms came out on a porch,
11 again, eh?
and the porch ran the length of the house,
Hmm.
and it was part of the woods.
I keep thinking that's my last one.
And those kids used to play out there in
All the
the
ones you keep thinking, oh, let's see
area
what
too.
next, and then now I'm thinking, oh, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
So they were upset by the house, by the road, even worse than you were.
no.
Collier Manor was one of those big, what do I want to call them, developments that HUD had, that's all gone down the drain. They were all built so cheaply. Collier Manor, Crestwood. I told you I eventually think of them. They were all built so cheaply with government money under the HUD program, and they all just deteriorated. People trashed them and moved out. They never could rebuild them, and they've just now had some big cleanup program going on with that department.
What's your sister doing?
Hmm.
She's
Reading.
Oh, okay. She likes to read.
Yeah, there was good builders in Florida, and there were trashy ones. They built. I never expected to live, I never thought about living, but when I think of all the sites and states and trips I have made in my lifetime, and most of it done after I was 70, because I never retired from working until I was 68. And then I started traveling, and when I think of all the places I have seen and done from the time of, say, I was 70 until I ended up here at 80, when I was 84, when I came to Chico. I'd say I've had my share.
So how old are you now? You were 84 when you came here, how old are you now? How old are you now?
What'd you say?
I just wanted to know how old you are now,
Oh, 89.
because you came here at 84?
He came in 84. I came in 86. I was 84. I get those mixed up. I'm 2 years younger than the,
You're 2 years older.
2 years older than the year.
Oh,
No,
he's
younger than a
91,
year.
she's-
2 years younger.
2 years younger.
Yeah.
I came in 86 and I'm 84.
Oh, okay,
This
so
is
you're 2 years
91
younger.
and I'm 89.
Right. That's a good way to keep track of your age.
Huh?
You'll never forget how old you are. It's a good way to keep track of your age.
I'd rather been born 1900 than I'd have had
Yeah,
it
really?
easy.
Yeah, no problem then.
Without any problem.
No. huh?
Yeah, I was born in 2, so I'm 2 years older than 2 years younger than the year.
Come here, you.
You're skinny, yeah, little girl.
I said the word ice cream and she's getting mad.
Oh, you get dirty look. You got some today.
Oh, don't know today or
I
don't
just brought a
use.
t-shirt. It just
But
has
you'd
a
be
picture of the
surprised
guy on the
how
back and it's
appropriate they
Do you have a
are.
long shirt I can use? A long
And
shirt?
I lived, my family, one of my families I lived with in high school in the winter
Just wear the t-shirt
was
you have
from
on, right?
Indiana.
Well, no, because I'm
And
going out there right now.
they
My swimming
really had
shorts.
expressions.
I-
And I never could
Well,
say
I'm gonna read.
pale
You need to shower.
I'm gonna
after I
read.
lived with them because the word was
Tomorrow?
bucket.
In the morning?
I don't know.
You never used the word pale.
Yeah, where are
In
you going to
Michigan, it
read?
was pale.
That's more of a
In
real-
Indiana, it was
In the
bucket.
van?
So
No, there.
to this day,
Am I
I
sitting up
most
there?
always refer to a pail as a bucket. But,
Well, let Mariah and I sit in the
They
van.
had a lot of
I
expressions.
don't think he'll stay.
And every once in a while, I'll think of them, I'll use them, but I find people today don't use expressions like they did. In fact, they used to identify you by your expression, say, oh, you came from Iowa, you came from Michigan, you came from Indiana. You know, by the way
Don't
you,
you say it, Karen will have to be
the
disciplined.
way you put your words together.
She's
But you
harassing
know you
us.
love it, but you know what?
They don't read as much now either. People just don't read like
yeah.
they used to.
Reading
gone
is
from pleasant to
such a
uncomfortable.
pleasure.
Okay, that's enough now, you heard
It is such a
I know you're
pleasure for people who can't travel.
She teasing me.
These people who are retired, who don't know what to do with themselves, and
Mariah,
you hear so many say they're so bored.
She's not growing up.
did you bring
Goodness.
that?
That
Jerry.
bores me, but you get a book, and I tell you, you're just in a world of your own.
If she was asking, she'd make it.
Yeah, I'd rather read than watch TV.
Oh, well, anybody in their right mind should.
She'll say stuff just to see.
Television is the
She knows, and she'll just sit back and watch.
When you look at
anesthesia of the brain.
that bookcase in my room, the bathroom in the guest room, and we're full of books. We're just stacked with books.
What are you looking for?
Like we haul them to the
I
library
got some
for the
news.
book sale, and
No
we
ice
bring
cream
them
in the
back.
bag.
We bring back a bunch. I think Carolyn bought about 6 of them yesterday, and I bought all that stack of magazines. I go for the magazines, and Carolyn goes for the books.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She came home with a game from school called
Water was shallow to it for a length, and for a good piece. But we kids, oh, the minute we saw the water, that was a treat. So we'd go in. None of us had swimsuits. And we were little kids, 5 little girls, and here we were running around in our, pulling up our dresses and running around, of course, getting our pants wet we couldn't resist running in the water. Why, what a problem we must have been, 5 of us.
Oh, yeah, but I'm sure they enjoyed
And we
it.
were all close together,
Yeah.
about a year and a half to 2 years apart.
See that little bush right there, honey? That's what we've got in our front yard.
That poem, remember?
Oh, yeah, I haven't got my glasses, but, thank you, Chris. Chris, don't forget, you may have, hair stuff in the bathroom.
Oh, I
And-
got it.
Did you get it out?
Put mine back on the stairway, will you? My,
Conditioner? Oh, yeah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, do that.
that's when
Do it
you,
now before it's too
you
late.
can,
Before you forget, honey.
yes.
Do you want me to get your glasses for you?
Oh, you want me to read this now? They're up by my television if you want to.
Where have you guys been?
We were just in the car.
Oh,
Getting
what are they doing in the car?
Probably straightening it up, I would hope.
Oh, I would hope. But
Probably
you know
not.
you're
though.
probably wrong. Yeah, I doubt it.
Phyllis thinks she might tear this all out and have it all garden, but I'm for leaving it.
Well, once it's there, you feel like leaving it, you know.
I would never tear it out because, now now that the weather's getting nice, we can, you don't have to be protected, thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
You don't have to be protected from the sun. So it's nice up there. I usually eat my
Careful.
lunch up there.
Yeah. You just sit on the little bench up there?
No, I take one of these
A
chairs
chair.
up there. The bench, which is stationary, is apt to be dusty, and the cat likes to come up
Oh,
and
yeah.
sleep on it.
That's true. Well, what happened to Frack anyway? He disappeared. Rye, are you wearing your earrings?
Yeah. Mariah.
Be quiet, hon. I don't know what that is, that red color.
Well, I think you're gonna make a hobby of this. I wouldn't recommend it for making money because I think poets starve.
They sure
But you're
do.
going to, this is a good hobby. Are you keeping them in a scrapbook? Huh?
Well, I have them, but not in a scrapbook.
Well, you want to keep them someday. That was my trouble. I was a collector of poetry. I was a collector of sayings and of many things. And then nobody was interested. Like nobody's interested in my background. And really, it's kind of a fun thing when you're old
Yeah.
and look back.
Mm-hmm.
Because all those things that were kind of tragic for you growing up, you got used to. And today when you look back, you wouldn't take $1 million for what you had.
Yeah, true.
And I did that when, about 17 years ago, I did an ARP trip with my California sisters were all supposed to go. I think we were all widows at the time, 17 years ago. And it was through ARP, I don't know but you've heard of it.
Yeah, I have.
And I was living in New York then, and sure, I said I'd go. It was only $500 for 10 days,
Well, that's inexpensive.
and you couldn't beat it.
Mm-mm.
This was, as I say, 17 years ago. So my 3 sisters out here were all going to go. It was a big deal. You could come from any place, any state, and sign in and do the trip. And it was one of those that was first starting, you know, which today is common. So ended up
Do me a favor and stay in the house.
Mabel, my sister who was second from me, she was the only one that went through with it. Dorothy copped out, and Marguerite copped out, and Pearl copped out. And so I did it, and I always kept a log of everything I did. I guess I could have been a writer, you know, for that type of thing. And I kept that, and I thought it was marvelous. I got so annoyed because none of my family, nobody wanted to read it. Nobody was interested. One day I got mad and I tore it up. Today I wish I had it
Yeah.
because Virginia has done it, Hawaii, Carolyn has done it, and the grandchildren who will be doing it, Kristen has done it. And it was a good trip, and I did 4 islands and all, and I did it when it was cheap.
Yeah.
So I
Too
have,
bad you didn't keep it, you know?
well, so many of my things went that way. I think I was different in the family than the others.
I should have worn my jeans this morning.
Oh, it's getting warm. The temperature's gone up
2 degrees.
2
since
degrees
we sat here.
since you sat down.
Honest.
Yeah,
At
it
that
was
rate,
60.
it'll be 150 by noon.
No, they don't. They promise us not over 100.
It's gone up 10 degrees since I got up.
Yeah,
Well, it's nice that it cools off at night, though.
I could
It
have
doesn't come
gotten
down to
up by
freezing.
at 6, which is my normal waking up.
You get up at 6 o'clock?
It's
usually?
my normal waking up.
Oh.
But I said no. No, I'd like to stay in bed till 8 o'clock, but it bothers my back.
Yeah, yeah. I started getting a sore
I
back
shouldn't
this
be
morning.
sitting this way. This is my where I have no peripheral vision.
Oh, on this side?
Yeah,
Oh, I should be sitting there and you should be sitting
yeah.
here.
I should have people at my right.
I should have had my
I should
jeans
have
on.
sat there.
Well, Greg's blind in this side, so usually if I sit over here, I'm okay, but I can't sit over there.
Yeah. See,
So
Greg
you're in the
had-
same way. I should sit on this side of you.
Greg suggested, but I haven't adjusted to that. Probably because I have vision.
Yeah, now see, he has no vision, so he
Yeah.
adjusts right away.
See, I have
I'm gonna put my
vision
shirt
in
on.
it, but in order to,
What are you gonna do, June?
I'm gonna put a shirt on. Actually, I should put my jeans on. It's kind of chilly.
It's not that cold, honey. It's gonna be 95 degrees, probably
Uh,
100
I
in
don't
Sacramento.
care. Take you can get in your back end and get into those, you know? Leave them out, I mean, you
Oh,
might
yeah,
be
I
warmer.
could. Well, I'm just gonna put on my shirt.
But I'm chilly this time of the
Yeah,
morning.
it is.
I'm
Oh,
chilly
we
too.
should stay like this.
Huh?
Oh, we should stay like this. This is great.
Oh, well, we'll get this. We should be getting this now. We'll get it. It won't get any colder for months now, and along will come the rains. Well, our rains are usually warm. Rains come about December.
Our rains are always cold.
Well, so sometimes we have rains you just want to go out and walk in them. They're so beautiful.
I hope it rains.
Yeah, it'll rain.
It's not looking good in Reno, I'll tell you that.
Well,
Getting awful dry.
it's been awful dry here, but we always manage. Every year they tell
Yeah.
us about the drought, but no, we're never curtailed. They go on building and building.
They go on. That's what Reno does. Build,
Yeah.
build, build.
They build, and how you can lack water and be in a drought and build, I don't know, but to me it's foolish.
Yeah.
But we may never get a killing frost. You never know. Anyhow, none of this really dies, except if you get a long cold spell, which happened last year. First time in the 5 years I've been here. So that's why I say got my little tree. But being we planted it ourselves, I couldn't get it replaced if I don't know, but I think if the gardener had planted it, but they want an arm and a leg to plant, so we put our bushes in when we wanted to, and they put the ground cover in, and the stepping stones, and the rose bushes were all here. And the holly back here was here. But all the rest, this was all a deck, another deck. I think they cooked out here. And they had a barbecue. And this was all the redwood all along here. And one of our neighbors took it and had it reconstructed in her backyard. But we left that one, and I would never tear it out if I were Carolyn.
No, no.
Never. Who wants to work so hard in planting and keeping it watered and all that jazz? This is enough. So where are you going on to?
It's probably just Sacramento.
Well, do see the Railroad Museum.
Yeah, that's a pretty good place.
I think it's in Old Town.
Yeah, Old Sacramento, the big railroad museum, and
Yeah. It's a nice area.
I've been there. I just can't remember it. It's been a few years.
Well, have you seen the museum?
No, it wasn't. I don't know if it was there when I was there or not. It's been a
Well,
few
I've been here 5
probably
years,
10
and
years.
it's been here ever since.
Yeah.
So I think it's old, but they keep adding to it. The day we were there, we were on a trip, a one-day trip with, I don't know, could have been our senior citizens. And it was, Sacramento can be so hot that you just can't breathe. And it's humid because of the river. And the day we were there, I just couldn't make it. That was about 3 years ago. I did everything, but when it came to the Railroad Museum, we walked across to the building, and I said to Carolyn, I can't do any more of this. It's just too hot. And so we sat down and found a shady place. So we never did see it, but it's so noted, and people do go there to see it. So I would recommend if you're that looking for something to do. How far are you from Reno when you're at Sacramento?
130 miles, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Do you ever do the apple country?
No, we haven't done that.
Gee, you should do that, because that too is just a short distance from here.
Yeah, we could do that on the way home.
Sure. We did that with George. We did it also with another day trip that the seniors run. And then Jenny and George wanted to do it, so a couple of years ago we drove over to Reno, stayed overnight, and got up, I guess it was on a Sunday, and drove to the apple country and did the apple, bought apples and visited the places. They make wine there. It's quite a nice area.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Go to Sacramento and then get out of there early enough to hit the apple country. And
Now, I don't know enough about it because I pay no attention when we drive anymore. But I would believe it could be done on your way home, because we did it easy and we ate over there because of the apple pies and different things. Of course, you can get the same thing.
love apple pie.
Yeah, well, That's their specialty over there. And we all had some of that. But there are many stalls, orchards that are open with apples to sell. Oh, they raise quantities and varieties. Nice. It's a nice place to visit. We've done it twice. And George was saying, or Ginny, how expensive apples were in the markets in Reno. Yet we did the apple country and came home with bushels. Like I think they got some for you and Stephen, and
Yeah, we'll try that.
they're reasonable.
We're gonna do that. We'll do that on the way home. That'll be good. I think we'll probably get going pretty soon, though.
Yeah, I
'Cause
get
I'd like
going
to hit
before it
that.
got hot.
Okay, now say bye.
Oh, goodbye.
Say it again.
Goodbye.
Hold it. Now I want you to say it again.
Oh, listen. You want me to say cheese?
Say cheese goodbye.
Goodbye.